Hey guys, Preston here, and welcome back to another video. The camera quality might be different, hopefully a little bit better. This is filmed on a new phone now, using a Falcons why did I say men's jersey? A Malkin Pens jersey to block out the light from back there. So that's kind of this is my first time with this camera, so we'll work with it. Hopefully I can get it to the best it looks at some point. Makes me look a little whiter than I used to, although I am pretty pasty, I won't lie. But anyways, sorry, I always ramble, don't I? So to start this video, it's a bit late. I apologize for that. I don't know if you've noticed, this is my first upload in like over 2 months. Got a little sidetracked there, which happens probably too often, but we're back now. And this is specifically more Steelers content again, as we're going to break down the Steelers 2021 draft class. I think it might actually be a little better now that we're doing it later. You know, this happened late April, now it's late May, so it's been about a month, which means we've really had a lot of time to think about it. We've gotten to see them in rookie camp a little bit, hear more about them and their stories through, interviews and stuff. So now that we've really got to think about this class, I think now would be a perfect time to break it down for us. So I'm using CBS Sports Draft Tracker to basically just look at each pick. I'll give you what their opinions were in their grade, and I'll give you my own grade and kind of talk about the pick and then the draft as a whole, because I think that was more important. Also, with my eyes, although this is pretty much every video, the way these phone cameras are set up, I'm never sure if I'm looking directly at camera or not. Like right now, I'm definitely not. I'm looking at me. So that it might be a little weird to some of you, so I apologize. I'm going to try to look at camera, but I'm worried that make me look like an idiot too. So look at what I think is the camera, so we'll keep going that way. So anyways, first up is Najee Harris. Of course, I like saying Najee, but I'm pretty sure it's Najee. I think that's how it's been said. At least that's how I've heard it said. 6'2", 230 pounds, beast of a running back out of Alabama. Killer season this year. CBS Sports gave it a C purely because he's a running back, which is stupid. Generally, I kind of agree with the sentiment of you don't normally take running backs in the first round, but I do believe there's exceptions, depending on how your team is fit everywhere else and when you're picking. Like, this isn't like Leonard Fournette top 5 or Ezekiel Elliott top 5, or it's not like we spent the number 2 pick or something. This is pick 30. Sorry, not 30. I wish it was 30. That would have been a better season. It's pick 24, which meant, this is late in the first round. This isn't like a top 10 pick, and it's the top running back available. The dude who is multifaceted and is actually talented. He can catch passes. He can block. He can do everything. He's a very valuable back. And I think it's awesome. I think when we think about it, some of these grades aren't great, but really, we got the number 1 running back in the draft and the number 2 tight end in the draft. And that's pretty impressive considering where we were picking. So just something to keep in mind this whole time. Najee's obviously a beast. I don't think I need to explain this to you guys, and hopefully Steelers fans have done some homework on him, watch his highlight tape like 1,000 times already, stuff like that. He's fitting in well. Everything I've heard, all they've ever talked about is how hard he's working. Like, he's getting there, and he's pretty quick. He's picking up the playbook quick. He's asking lots of questions, and he seems very motivated and hungry just to be at it this year, man. Obviously, James Conner and the room behind him did our run game no favors last year. Obviously, there's the argument that it's, O-line running back. It's like a chicken and egg thing where it's like, is it the offensive line's fault? Is it the running back's fault? Last year was a little bit of both. Yes, our O-line was bad, but if you go back and you watch some of those games, man, there was just times where Conner was just missing the hole. Like, if the offensive line made a hole, which obviously they didn't do it a bunch of times, but when they did, he wasn't hitting the hole. He was cutting the wrong way. He just seems like he lost a step, and obviously we all know he was constantly injured. Knock on wood for Najee and for Conner in Arizona, but we know the injury history there. Always banged up, always something wrong with him, which probably also impacted his performance. I like Benny Snell, but he was never meant to be a feature back, 4th round pick. Still a solid backup, but obviously he's had the fumbling issues, and he's been kind of inconsistent. He had that good game against the Giants, I think, and then after that is like, so. And we just don't know enough about Anthony McFarland, also a 4th round pick. I think he can actually do pretty well under Matt Canada's offense, but that's for those position previews that will be coming out probably July, maybe I'll have to start in June, but I want to wait as long as I can because there's still rumors of the Steelers being in the free agent market where we got some cap space. We've been looking at alignment and defensive ends, etc. But stay tuned for position previews for the Steelers. But right now, let's get back to the focus. Anyways, like I was saying, the running back room wasn't that stellar. Najee was the best running back in the draft by a mile, if you ask me. I think he's way better than ETN. And he's just a beast. He's dependable. He's big. He's not a power back or make you miss back a scat back, you know. He's a perfect combination as well, just a balanced running back, I'd say. And he does have some wear and tear, so keep an eye on that. Just has a lot of carries, but he's generally been pretty healthy, I'd imagine. You know, we hope that all goes to plan. And I honestly think this offensive line is better than what people are saying it is, which I'll bring up a little bit when we get to rounds 3 and 4, which is where we spent on the offensive line. But overall, they gave it a C, only literally just because he doesn't like running backs. I would hope Pete Prisco, who graded that pick, would know how talented Najee is. To me, that's an A pick, especially when we see how it played out later. And if you trust the Steelers with drafting and developing offensive linemen like I do, and which hopefully most of you do, when you look at our track record, like Al was a practice squad tight end we picked up. Ramon Foster was undrafted, I'm pretty sure. Don't think Gilbert wasn't a first-round pick. Chucks was a third-round pick. Banner was drafted, but not by us. He was sitting on a practice squad when we got him. Stuff like that. We have this niche of finding guys and developing them, so I trust them when we get to these later picks. So at the end, I think Najee was probably and he was the most talented player available for us, especially on the offensive side of the ball. So we took advantage, and we got a beast of a running back now. So to me, that's an A. That's a great pick. Sorry, HP's hit me with bull crap. Now, our second pick, this one did confuse me. I won't lie. This one probably won't get an AA. Like, it's not an A+ or anything, just because it definitely wasn't our top need, but this was a BPA / position in need kind of thing. It looked like they probably looked at all of our positions in need and thought that Freiermuth was the best player available at a position that we needed. This is another thing you have to trust their scouting, because they did pass on some offensive linemen. There's still good tackles left. There was, notably, Creed Humphrey was still available to center, who apparently might play guard at Kansas City, so maybe that says something that we didn't really know. But either way, we passed on offensive line that round and went with Pat Freiermuth, who used to be called Baby Gronk. Just so you know, Steelers fans, he doesn't want to be called it anymore, so our job's to find him a new nickname before the season starts. But anyways, Freiermuth was the tight end from Penn State, 6'5", 260 pounds. Beast of a player. For a while was probably considered the best tight end for this draft class in like the early stuff, but then obviously Kyle Pitts came out and had a crazy year. No doubting his prowess as a receiving tight end, but I think Freiermuth is probably the best like true tight end, if you want to call it. Because to me, a guy like Pitts, obviously I would have loved to have him, but he's just a bigger receiver basically. But Freiermuth can catch very well. I mean, dude had 0 red zone drops at Penn State, which is think about that, Steelers fans, a tight end who doesn't drop the ball. That'd be a breath of fresh. I can't speak. It's 1 a.m. when I'm filming this, so excuse me. But a breath of fresh air compared to Eric Ebron and his brick hands at times last season, to be blunt. So I think he lights a fire under Ebron, and I think even if he doesn't become tight end 1 this year, he gets to play alongside him. We can use 2 tight ends. I don't feel like Vance got his fair share of catches last year, but he did block and stuff. And with the new coordinator in Canada, I think our offense will just be better in general, and guys will be utilized. So, and I'm sure he had some input in this pick. I'm sure they did. I mean, when you're a new coordinator and you spend your first 4 picks on offense, you would hope he has at least a little bit of a say in what happens here. And even this, if we're being honest, this is I believe this is Ebron's last year of his 2-year deal he signed. So you can just let Ebron walk if you want to, and you can stick with Freiermuth as your tight end 1 for the future. This is the highest pick we've used on a tight end in a very long time. I believe they said it was since Matt Spaeth, who was also a second rounder. Obviously, I think Freiermuth will be a way better receiving threat than Spaeth ever was, but you could hope that he could block as well as Spaeth. It'll probably take a little work. Not the best blocker, but not a liability at blocking, is from everything I've heard. So I'll tell you what CBS says real quick. They gave him a C+. To me, this comparison was disrespectful, man. This one pissed me off. CBS kind of missed the mark this draft, if you ask me. But they call this Chris Trapasso, emphasis on the second part of his last name. No, but he said he reminds him of Nick Vannett. Decent separation and yards after catch skill. Just doesn't know if he moves the needle as much as receiver, but where's the offensive line? So another thing where they're focused on other positions of need, which was still weird to me because when we get to it, the two linemen we drafted, CBS Sports gave A-minuses. So they clearly liked the offensive line we drafted. So why are they hating on the earlier picks? But this is a whole other issue. That's why you're hearing my grades along with their garbage grades. Because, true Steelers fans, I think we kind of have an understanding of what our GM does and what our management does. And we kind of, we know our team better than these guys who are hired to grade and focus on all 32. They just get a broad spectrum. Like, Steelers O-line, garbage. O-line only, stuff like that. So, anyways, see, I ramble a lot. If you're new to the channel, I hope you enjoy that. But people who have been here, they know I do this a little bit every now and then, but hopefully it's not too horrible for you. Anyways, they gave it a C+, like I said. I read what they said. Nick Vannett just seems beyond disrespectful. I can promise you now, Pat Freiermuth will be way better than the Broncos' third-string tight end who did nothing for us and then whined about the team when he left. So, you know what? I'm on the Nick Vannett hate train. Granted, might be the only one, but I know for sure there's no Nick Vannett fan train going on out there. So, shots at Nick Vannett for some reason. I mean, obviously he's good enough to play in the NFL, but I just think Freiermuth is already better than Vannett was. Even give me the best version of Vannett, whenever that was, but Freiermuth is already better than that. So, don't let the CBS hate fool you there. If some of you ever read that, I think he's better. I'd go B just because I trust him, though, so I have to trust him. I just think a guy like Creed Humphrey would have been awesome. Or maybe you go corner, or there's just a lot of ways we could have gone, and tight end did surprise me a little bit. But it does make sense in the end of the day. I assumed we'd either draft one or just sign a guy. Like there was a rumor for a while we're bringing Jesse James back. But when you draft this guy, that means you get a guaranteed, somewhat cheap contract for 4 years instead of like a 1 or 2 year deal for a proven veteran who doesn't have the same potential that Freiermuth does. So like I said, when you get the walk away at the top running back and second best tight end in the draft, that's a pretty good deal if you ask me. So great job so far by the Steelers. Was shocked with the tight end pick, I will not lie to you, but it's grown on me. Like I said, we've had a month to think about this and look at these players, and it just makes more sense now. Third round, 87 overall. This is where... Sorry, my mouth gets dry when I just talk a lot. But Kendrick Green, the center from Illinois, was our pick here. He's played guard and center at Illinois. Obviously, Illinois is not the best school, but it is a Big Ten program, which means he's facing pretty solid pass rushes, man. And he definitely knows how to run block. Big Ten football, they kind of pride themselves on O-lines, D-lines, and running that football. And he was a bright spot on that pretty rough Illinois team under Lovie Smith. I will say he's had kind of NFL-ish coaching, so that's a decent thing to look at. But, I mean, it's hard not to like this guy. This, screams like a Kevin Dotson pick again, where we didn't really see it coming. None of us really did. But the more you watch this guy, the more you hear him talk, you just love the freaking kid, man. Dude's pure energy. He's energized as crap. Seems awesome. Definitely a grinder, a hard worker. He's got a freaking God of War tattoo for crying out loud. Dude knows what's up. He's going to get after it. Prides himself on being physical and aggressive. And he did a lot of zone blocking. And he's, quote-unquote, small for a center. But he literally fits the mold. Now, be careful here. I'm saying fits the mold, not he is. He fits the mold of Marquise Pouncey, the center, who obviously just retired. He does have his number now, so maybe it's a bit on the nose there, guys. But it's I think he can play well. The Steelers, obviously, we have a long, rich history of excellent offensive linemen in general, but center specifically with guys like going all the way back to Mike Webster. So hopefully Green carries on that legacy. Like I said, CBS Sports finally giving us some love here. They called him an instant starter at center, explosive and naturally strong. Fantastic pick for Pittsburgh, A-. Hey, look, I agree with CBS now. The other two picks, they were just harping that they weren't O-line. But then when we did address the O-line, they loved the offense lineman that we picked. So this is something you just got to trust Pittsburgh. You'd have to imagine that they had Kendrick Green pretty high on their draft board, and that's why they were willing to pass on a guy like Creed Humphrey. Just because Kendrick Green just fits the mold of that Steelers center. Not as massive, but 6'4", 315 still great to me, man. Maybe the height's a little short for an offensive lineman. I mean, and I wish I was 6'4". I'm 6 flat, basically. So 315 still good weight, though, if you ask me. and he's athletic and explosive, which is a type of center we like, especially, and he's played a lot of zone blocking, which was his scheme in college, which it seems like all signs have been pointing more towards that. This offensive line with a new line coach and offensive coordinator, we're going to be more of a zone blocking team now than we were the year before. We got a lot of young, kind of more athletic offensive linemen. I think it could work perfectly. Then after that, we continue with offensive line, double dipping here. Kind of a reach if you base it off draft boards, but a pick that CBS like nonetheless, and I also do like, and I trust the Steelers here. Another example of picking from a big school and a big conference, Dan Moore Jr. out of Texas A&M, 6'5", 315. The starting left tackle for Texas A&M, started at tackle. I believe it was left, but he might have played a little bit of right too, but he started for 3 straight years facing very tough SEC competition, and for the most part did well, did what he was asked, seemed like a great teammate from everything we've heard. The cool thing is him and the center we drafted in the 3rd round, Kendrick Green, actually trained together in the preparing for the draft process, so they're already tight-knit. We're already got a connection established as they move on to try to connect with the rest of the offensive linemen. I think O-lineman is one of the most important groups when it comes to chemistry and kind of building that brotherhood, as Notre Dame would say. So I think that's a great thing to have coming in, is that your offensive linemen you drafted are already friends. So that's always nice to see. I'll read you what CBS says. Sorry, for Green, I also give it an A because I trust the Steelers. Dude's just a dog, man. He has that mentality, and I love that. And he looks like he's just going to be going at it day one. Like I said, Kevin Dotson-esque. Obviously, we can't guarantee he'll play as well, but just that kind of, he seems like a grinder, kind of underrated guy. Not as underrated as Dotson, but still, you get the point. And then for more, CBS Sports, this isn't my grade yet, I'll tell you what they said. They said more patience for the Steelers pays off. This is a starting offensive tackle found in round 4. Very long with effortless power. Good luck bull rushing him. Just needs to get a tick quicker. So, not bad at all. Once again, Chris, who I was kind of ragging on for his grade of the tight end, but then he really loved the 2 offensive linemen. So hopefully you'd make him think he'd change the grade. But obviously he's got a lot of grades to pick, so I don't blame him not going back or anything. But both guys, he called them both starting capable offensive linemen, which is awesome. I am guessing Dan Moore will not be starting day one. I'm not trying to rag on him or anything. He's 6'5", 315, by the way, but he's a 4th round pick. And at the moment, it seems like we'll have Chuks Okorafor start at left tackle and Zach Banner start at right. But like I said, I don't think there's been official reports, but there's been fan speculation, I guess you could say, about some of these tackles that keep coming available. I think one's name is Morgan Moses from the Washington football team. We have not seen any reports yet, though, so maybe that changes things. But if that's the case, it probably seems like Dan Moore also won't be looking to start if we're actually looking at tackles, because there's already 2 people ahead of him with Chucks and Zach. Either way, is a great developmental guy to have, a good backup. If anything, I could definitely see him playing swing tackle if we don't add anyone else. I do think he's probably better than Joe Haig, who is still a weird signing to me. Everything I heard was he was not very good for Tampa last year. So just you need bodies in that O-line room. I think it's awesome. We're kind of resetting at that position. CBS clearly likes his potential. I do too. And I'm hoping we can get the most out of him and develop him. I mean, even with the kind of rough offensive line coaching you would say last year and the year before, we were still developing guys pretty well. So hopefully that continues with Dan Moore Jr. and Kendrick Green. Also give that an A for the 4th round offensive lineman that CBS loves this much, and for what I've seen is also very dependable. Like I said, multi-year starter at the SEC program. That's great experience right there. Don't love the SEC just personally, but obviously there's great talent in that conference, and he stuck with the best of them. So next up, this is another classic Steelers move right here. Double dipping at a school. We went with Buddy Johnson, the linebacker, middle kind of inside linebacker from Texas A&M, 6'2", 240. Basically, this is a textbook kind of old school Steelers thumper. To me, the way I describe it is think Vince Williams, but obviously younger and more athletic. Dude is an athletic freak, had a great combine, and was a thumper in college with a lot of production too. I mean, mainly tackles, crap ton of tackles, but also could get some forced fumbles, TFLs, sacks, a pick or 2, I believe. The only question everyone was having was his coverage upside. So people questioning his coverage, and that's mainly why CBS Sports decided to give him a C-. But they did say it feels like an old school Steelers pick for the linebacker spot, and I'd have to agree. I think the coverage is something that can be worked on. We got Terrell Austin in there as an assistant who's helped make Edmonds better in coverage. I think he could probably help Buddy too. Obviously, I think there's still more potential with coverage for Buddy than there is for Vince, but clearly having Vince Williams play for us, it has proved that you don't always need to be able to cover to play linebacker in our scheme, and Buddy seems like that kind of future Vince Williams replacement. You always, the Steelers, anyways, you always want a thumper in the middle who can help shut down that run game, and I'm very excited to see what Buddy brings to the table. Don't know how many reps he'll get this year, especially with Vince actually still being here the first season, and Spilly and Bush, and pretty full room there, but we'll see. There's a chance. I mean, if he earns playing time, it'll be very impressive. It means he's very good. I think he will be good just with some time. Give it by next year. I imagine he will definitely be getting playing time if Vince Williams leaves, and depending on the whole Ulysses Gilbert III situation, if he's going to be injured forever, if we let him go, or if he's just not really worked out. But really like the athleticism there. Athleticism and production are always great things to look for when you're past them. I mean, once you're past the third round, these guys aren't guaranteed starters, so look for awesome traits. And Buddy Johnson has that. Hard worker, led his team in tackles, I believe. Crazy stats and crazy athleticism, just the tools you can have to shape the guy to be what you want. And I trust our team. I trust our development. I trust our scouts. So that's a good pick for me. I go with a B compared to their C-. I do like Buddy a lot. I think maybe I still kind of harp on that corner. I know we don't draft corner well, but I do think we probably should have addressed it at some point, finding like a guaranteed slot guy or just someone who could fill in somewhere. Obviously, losing Nelson and Hilton, you probably would have liked someone to get drafted there. So next is probably the worst pick in the draft. I don't like hate on our picks because obviously we just don't know how they will turn out. But I can tell you now this one will get my lowest grade, and that is Isaiah Loudermilk because, well, we traded up. We gave up a 4th round pick in this next draft, this 2022 draft, to move up to the 5th round to take a guy in Isaiah Loudermilk, the defensive lineman out of Wisconsin, who more than likely, at least on draft boards, like I said, we also don't know what other teams are thinking. We only know what the Steelers are thinking, obviously, because they drafted him. But in the 5th round, when a lot of people were saying he probably would have been available in the 7th or heck even as a UDFA. So he reached and traded up, which is never great, but you just got to trust him. He was also not a position in need, so that's why it is going to be my lowest pick overall. I think there's some good corners available there. You could have double dipped at edge or linebacker, safety. We need safety depth bad still, which we addressed a little bit, but not enough if you ask me. So yeah, just not a position in need. There's potential there. This is another Clay that you get the mold situation where he is 6'7", 293 pounds. That's excellent size. Very athletic, put up good numbers in that Wisconsin defensive line. Obviously, Wisconsin is known for defense. They know what we're doing. TJ Watt is a prime example of that, and obviously his brother too. But, just Wisconsin in general has had a solid off defense for a while now. So I'll read you what CBS said, and I'll kind of give my grade on it too. This might be one where I actually kind of agree a little bit. I'll be a little nicer than CBS, though, more than likely. Call me biased. You're right. So, but classic Steelers type, up front, big, almost oversized, and has heavy hands. Just not a refined pass rusher and lacks closing speed to the ball carrier quarterback. So just refined is the key word there. It's up to us to refine him. It's another example. We find a guy with great size and traits, and we just work it in to make him a pro-level defensive lineman. It's another body. It's more competition for that room. I mean, there's a lot of guys building up back there now with Carlos Davis and Isaiah Buggs and Chris Wormley and Aldo Alu. And so maybe he'll get some snaps. I doubt it. He seems like a guy he'll probably be on the practice squad this year, and he might crack it in next year. We'll see. He'll have to beat out those guys I mentioned like Buggs and Davis. And there's a chance he'll get the backup to it and why am I forgetting Hayward? And then some people have called him like he'd be the future replacement for Hayward once Hayward retires. But Hayward's on a pretty long deal. He just signed for, I think it's 4. I could be wrong. Feel free to correct me in the comments below if you know I'm wrong. But either way, I think best case scenario, he turns out to be a good backup. But we did trade and gave up a 4th next year for him. So because of that, because it's not a position of need, this is getting a C from me. Got a C- from CBS, but I'll go C+. I like the upside. I really do. And he looked good in rookie minicamp from everything I've heard. It just wasn't our biggest – it wasn't a need. And I feel like with this draft, we we probably should have addressed the need every single time. But what can you do, right? Not awful. I'll trust them. I'll just, I'll do do what I can to trust them. I usually trust the drafts, but every now and then you get like a Jarvis Jones. So, But at least it's the 5th round. So, like, if he doesn't pan out, I'm not going to sweat it that much. I will start sweating if our top 3 picks fail to pan out, which, I doubt they will. I really believe in those 3 guys. And actually, I believe in most of these picks, honestly. This might be the first time in a while where all of our picks actually make the 53-man roster. I'd say at most 2 don't. I would say Loudermilk might end up on the practice squad and maybe Norwood, although I feel like Norwood kind of seems like he'd be in just based off the lack of depth at corner and safety. So it might be everyone. Everyone might make the final 53 this year, which is crazy for a draft. We draft 9 picks, with most of them being past round 4. Anyways, we will continue with probably the best value pick in this draft based off the draft boards everyone looks at media-wise, and that is Quincy Roche, the defensive end / outside linebacker in our scheme, an edge guy basically from Miami. I'll read you what CBS said first, and then we'll kind of get more into it. So, 6'3", 245, by the way, so a little small. Small is kind of the same thing they said about Alex Highsmith, which is actually what CBS said, saying, similar to last year's pick of Alex Highsmith, a little on the smaller side for the position, but a handwork master who can win around the edge with some speed and bend. If he was bigger, he would have been picked much earlier. So he fell a little bit because of his size, but Highsmith already proved last year that that's not everything. It's not the end-all, be-all. And actually, Roche got to face tougher competition than Highsmith ever did. Even at Temple, he was facing tougher competition than Highsmith did at Charlotte, and he lit it up at Temple. And he also did well. He didn't light it up as much as he did at Temple for Miami, but he had a very solid season at Miami, playing next to a first-round pick at defensive end. So, obviously, he probably stole some sacks from him there. But Roche's a beast. He's fast. He gets results. This is kind of that production over... This time it's production over traits. Sometimes we've seen stuff where it's more traits over production, but this time was definitely, dude was a sack master. He's a sack artist, you'd say, in college, and then we're going to hope that translates over to the pros. Most places had him as a 3rd or 4th round draft grade, and we got him in the 6th, so that's a steal if you ask me. I really like the value. I think some people think he'll actually compete with Highsmith for that starting edge spot. I think he'll just be a very quality backup. I honestly think he's already a better backup outside linebacker than Cassius Marsh or Ola Adenye was last year. So I think we actually upgraded at backup edge, which is awesome. We will have to keep an eye on for the amount of snaps he'll get, especially if the rumors of us looking for an edge is true. Apparently we're interested in Ryan Kerrigan before he signed with Philly. So we'll have to see if they're interested in a guy like Justin Houston or Olivier Vernon. That will obviously affect his snap count, but no matter what, I think he'll be a good edge rusher given time and can be a very valuable backup throughout his career. If not a starter one day, I'd probably say at least a solid backup for this. We all know how, valuable and just effective our pass rush has been for the last almost decade, probably half a decade at least, led the NFL in sacks for 5 years. And I think a guy like Roche and hopefully Loudermilk will help continue that tradition. Next up, so they gave it an A-. I'm going A+, actually, just because the value. Position of need, talented kid, and a steal based off their own draft board. So to me, that's an A+. Then with Norwood in the 7th round, 2 7th-round picks. Trade Norwood, the corner / we'll actually call him what Tomlin did. Tomlin announced that pick, if you remember, and he called him a Swiss Army knife, which kind of gives you an idea of what Pittsburgh has in store for him. That he's just going to be a backup defensive back. Like, he's going to back up all those guys. He can play corner, can be in the nickel packages, slot corner. Probably not outside, but if you're in a pinch, he can play outside. Safety, which is what it seems like his main focus will be for us, is safety. Not very physical, so not a thumper safety, not that Edmonds role, but he can probably be nice backup for coverage safety, play him deep, stuff like that. Just good defensive back depth. I do kind of wish we would have addressed this a little earlier, maybe with that Loudermilk pick, but like I said, I do like Loudermilk, so it's not the end of the world. But we did draft a corner no matter what, and I'll tell you what CBS said about him real quick. He's 6 foot, by the way, so not awful size. Definitely taller than Mike Hilton, so that's a plus. 194. I'll read you what they said, like I said. Rambling again. Not the twitchiest defensive back, but wins with instincts and had good ball production late in his career. Yes, he actually had 5 picks, I believe, in this 2020 season. So this is another example where it's maybe not the best size or intangibles, but man produced no matter what. He overcame any limitations he had and was a ball hawk on that Oklahoma defense last year. So we're hoping that continues to translate. I like some of that coverage skills he already has built in. We can get him in a weight training program if we feel like if we want to bulk him up a bit for that safety position, we can. And he's just a good mold. It's another Clay thing. You can mold him, and he just seems like he's going to come in and be a decent backup safety for us. Not like Sean Davis did much for us anyways, and it'll be him and Killebrew basically a backup safety is my guess. Even if he doesn't play safety, it's just another body for the competition we will have for corner this year. There's a lot of guys fighting for spots. The only one with really the safest spot is Hayden. Everyone else is kind of competing for where they'll be. My guess is that Sutton will be the other outside corner, but James Pierre is probably knocking on that door. And then if Sutton, you can probably put Pierre outside, and Sutton can play slot one off when you need the 3 corners. But people fighting for slot will be Norwood prop if they want him there, and then guys like Shakir Brown, who is a UDFA I'll probably talk about, because let's just do that now real quick before we get to the awesome punter that, So Norwood gets a B from me. They give him a B+. B-, sorry. But now to Shakir Brown. That is a corner from Michigan State that we signed as a UDFA. We actually gave him, he got our best signing bonus out of any of our UDFAs. He was actually one of the top ones available when the whole UDFA craze started, which Pittsburgh usually doesn't go after those top guys in terms of UDFAs. So it's awesome to see us get him. 4th round draft grades from sites I saw. I mean, heck, I think CBS actually had him with a 4th round draft grade, and we were able to get him undrafted. I think it was mainly because of his speed wasn't fantastic, but it's another example of a guy who produced in college, played slot and outside, but is more fit for that slot role. And I think there's a chance he actually can get decent slot starts for us this season. So in terms of UDFA signings, that's an A for me. I won't talk a lot about the other UDFAs. I'll talk about him just because he's the biggest one, and then we'll finish up here. It's already been 30 minutes. I ramble. I apologize, but hopefully it's it's a good thing because you're just getting more details about this draft class. So we will end it right here with the last pick, 254 overall in the 7th round. We went with the punter, Presley Harvin III, the 6', 255-pound punter. Got the weight of it's just for reference here, based off CBS's weight, Pat Fryermuth, our tight end, is only 5 pounds heavier than our punter. So, I mean, Harvin weighs more than Quincy Roche and Buddy Johnson. So, unit of a punter. I wouldn't call it detrimental just because, I mean, the dude won the Ray Guy Award in college in 2020, which means the best punter in that college football season. So it's not like it's holding him down. If anything, it makes him better for special teams coverage and stuff like that. Also had some pretty good fake punts. Dude's got a cannon arm. I mean, maybe he's the Big Ben replacement. Obviously, I'm joking. Please, calm down if you think that's serious. I doubt it. But anyways, like I said, we've all been complaining about Jordan Berry for so long now, and he just won't go away. So we all hope, man, we're begging that Presley Harvin is the answer to that. Probably won't get an A+ from me. I do love the pick, but obviously I've wanted a punter bad. So if you're not one of those people, you're like, why did we draft a punter? There's a chance we probably could have got him at a UDFA. But if we're being honest, in the 7th round, most of these guys are just practice squad kids anyway. So why not get the best punter available with your final pick? Like, it's not like there's someone way, way better at 254. We didn't pass on a bona fide starter for Harvin, so I don't hate the pick. Obviously, he was probably the best punter. Hopefully, he is the best punter in this draft. Got a cannon for a leg. And it's just a unit, man. He's a fun story, too. It looks like somebody will be fun to follow in camp and throughout the season. So now we just hope that he beats out Barry. My grade would obviously change big time if he doesn't beat out Barry, because then we just wasted a 7th round pick for a punter who we will just end up cutting. But I have to imagine that he will beat out Barry basically no matter what. We might just be done with Barry, especially since Harvin will be way cheaper than Barry, I think, in terms of cap hit. So they give him a C-, probably just because they don't like drafting punters. I go A-, just because it is a punter, and there's a chance we could have got him as a UDFA, but technically we don't know if we could have. So I'm just going to continue with the grade because I do like the player. So overall, I'm going to give this draft to me, it's an A. Bro, it's an A. I mean, I understand the argument for a B or like a B+. A-, all those pretty much A to B just makes sense for me. But the people, I mean, not Mike Mayock. Sorry, he's a pretty bad GM now for the Raiders. But whoever the dumb haircut guy is for ESPN, I don't know why I'm forgetting his name, but you all know him. Sorry, this is gonna drive me crazy. I'll say who it is when I look at it. Mel Kiper Jr., there you go, gave us the worst draft grade out of anyone in the entire draft. I completely disagree with that. I think the Steelers know what they're doing by now. We got the best tight end in the draft. Sorry, the second best tight end in the draft, the best running back in the draft, the best punter in the draft, a steal for an edge rusher in the 6th round, a super athletic linebacker, a giant specimen at defensive line who we can grow to become a very talented player, which we've proven we can do, and then 2 very solid offensive linemen, including Kendrick Green, who will probably be our day 1 starter at center, and Dan Moore, who has a lot of potential, can definitely, at the very least, will be probably a top backup at tackle this year and probably get snaps as a swing tackle. So to me, that's an excellent draft. We addressed basically every pick except Loudermilk was at a position of need, and they were all solid picks. Not all of them day 1 starters, obviously, because your team would have to be bad if all your draft picks ended up being day 1 starters. But most of them will actually probably get playing time this year, which is awesome. Not always the best case scenario, I guess, but we lost players, and these guys fill in needs, and they're going to do well. I think all of them, like I said, I think all but probably maybe one misses the day 1 roster, but I think most of them will probably be there. So if you ask me, that's a very solid draft by the Steelers management team. I love this draft class. Like I said, just remember, people weren't all aboard our draft last year either, and then, I mean, all of them made the roster. Basically, let me check again, sorry. So, yeah, I mean, Chase Claypool, Alex Highsmith, Anthony McFarland, Kevin Dotson, Antoine Brooks, and Carlos Davis all had snaps for the main team last year. I mean, Davis, a lot of people had no idea who he was. He was a reach, and he played. I mean, he played well, too. So, we know how to draft, man. We know what we're doing. I have full faith that this draft class is going to be just as good, if not better. Probably better than last year's, just because we actually had more picks, so that means more guys that pan out. So either way, guys, thank you so much for watching. Please like this video if you enjoyed it. Make sure to subscribe for more Steelers and sports-related content in general. I currently have plans on starting a sports show in general. I'll probably live stream it, so I don't have to worry about the filming and waiting for it to upload it. Don't have a certain time yet, but I'll probably just talk about, the NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs, and NFL news, stuff like that. So just stay subscribed for just sports content in general. But definitely, if you're a Steelers fan, which I hope you are watching this video, you will get to see more Steelers content. I promise you that. Click right here for the playlist of all my other Steelers videos. There'll be, I got position previews from last year, game breakdowns from last year, game previews from last year, reacting to free agent signings from last year as well. But now we're kind of ramping up this off season, so there'll be a lot of Steelers content this off season. It'll all be in that playlist as well when that comes to it. So maybe you're watching it then, and you'll get to watch position previews and stuff, which will be coming out. For the people watching this now, it will come out in June and July. These position previews will start pumping out this year. I promise, I will get to every position this year. I put O-line and D-line as their own video. I don't separate guards and tackles and stuff, but there'll be a video for every position. I promise you that. So stay tuned for that. Over here is just a random video that YouTube decided to recommend for you, and right here's the subscribe button. It'd be very helpful if you did that. I'd really appreciate it. Help me reach, sorry, my nose is itchy. Help me reach 200 subscribers. It'd be awesome. Once again, this has been KMA Preston. I apologize for all the rambling. I hope I'm looking at you this time. Let me know what you think about this camera, if there's anything that should change, and just comment. Feel free. I want to talk. I'll love to talk Steelers with anyone. So if you have any just comments or even questions about this draft class, or just any statement you want to make, if you agree or disagree with me, I would love to discuss that with you in the comment section. So feel free to comment that below. This is KMA Preston signing out. See you guys later.